She was standing in fire. Not beside it, not near it, in it. Suspended above a pit of churning plasma flame by chains so thick that Vance Sterling could have wrapped both hands around a single link and still not touched his fingers together. The heat rolling off that pit warped the air between them. Yet, he could see her clearly enough. Copper-toned skin, eyes the color of something between amber and war, and a stillness that had no business existing on someone who was slowly being cooked alive. In 14 years of smuggling at the fringe of charted space, he had seen many things. But nothing like her. He bought her with every weapon he had. 3 hours earlier, Zephyr 4 had looked like every other arid contract drop. A cracked orange world smelling of sulfur and bad decisions. Vance had touched down the VoidRunner 2 clicks from the Saurian settlement coordinates and walked in fully armed. Sidearm, shoulder rig, 2 concealed blades, and a cargo manifest worth more to the right people than his ship. The chieftain met him at the perimeter. 8 feet of scaled patience. Jaw clicking in a rhythm Vance knew meant impress me fast. He had been prepared for negotiation, for posturing, the ceremonial back and forth, maybe a mild threat. He had not been prepared to round a stack of bone-carved pillars and find a woman hanging above a fire like an offering. An Ignisian his mind supplied. He had never met one in person, only read the dossier. A species with controlled pyrokinetic ability, internal bioluminescence, strict military hierarchy, and classified by 3 galactic bodies as a protected intelligence. The Saurian chieftain clearly read different files. He asked what she was worth. They told him. He laid his entire cargo manifest on the ground between them, weapons crate and all, and said more than that. It was not noble. He would tell anyone who asked that it was tactical. An Ignisian owed a life debt was an Ignisian who might be useful. He had been telling himself that for the full 40-minute walk back across the flats. Her wrists raw, her silence total. The 2 of them cutting through copper-colored dust with a shared urgency that needed no translation. He almost believed it. Then the ridge to their left erupted. 6, maybe 8 Saurian raiders came over the rock in a coordinated sweep. Ambush written before his hand cleared his holster. Vance dropped to one knee, fired 2 shots, heard a plasma discharge hiss behind him, spun instinctively, and froze. Lyra had produced a staff from somewhere his eyes hadn't tracked. It telescoped to full length in the half-second it took his brain to catch up. Her hands began to glow. Not metaphorically, not a soft shimmer, but a deep structured amber ignition building in both palms like twin suns she had not yet decided to release. She unleashed them. The closest raider went down before he finished breathing. She was already moving for the next, staff spinning, plasma cutting in controlled arcs. Not wild, not desperate, trained like she had done this before he was born. He turned, covered her flank, and somehow that was enough. Back to back, they cleared the ridge. He stopped questioning tactics somewhere around the 3rd shot. She didn't explain the gem until they were in orbit. Vance was running post-engagement diagnostics on the VoidRunner's port thruster when Lyra crossed the cockpit and set something on the NAV console that pulsed like a heartbeat. Small, faceted, warm in a way unrelated to temperature. Bio-encrypted, she said, accent precise, learned from military brief rather than conversation. Tactical architecture of the entire Vorn-Hegemony forward deployment, infiltration routes, fleet staging positions, every weakness they had spent a decade hiding. He looked at the gem, then at her. You need it, smuggled through their blockade around Kairos Prime. She did not flinch at the weight of her ask. There was no other way. He already knew, having run supply routes past Von Cordon's twice before and barely walking away both times, even before the net tightened around Kairos. The blockade was not a patrol formation, it was a wall. 30 capital ships, sensor arrays enough to detect a cold lunch at range. He picked up the gem. It pulsed once in his palm, warm and insistent, like something alive recognizing a new hand. I know a trick, he said. The trick nearly killed them both. The experimental cloaking field had been in the VoidRunner's lower systems for 8 months, untested, purchased from a Meridian techrunner swearing on 3 deities it would hold at close range. He found out now, cycling the field at the edge of Kairos's gravity well, watching the ship's signature reshape itself until the blockade sensors saw a routine Vaughn supply freighter. It held for 11 minutes. Then a sensor array did what no documented Vaughn system should, and the pretense collapsed in a wall of targeting locks and hailing frequencies. We see you. What followed was controlled falling, not a dogfight. Vance pushed the ship into the canyon system at Kairos's northern continent. Canyon walls giving targeting systems no clean angles. Vaughn fighters were better, faster, more disciplined. They weren't ready for someone who made instinctual, chaotic decisions that looked reckless until they weren't. Lyra held on, silent. That meant more than words. The outpost should have been safe. It wasn't. 3 operatives deep into a Vaughn infiltration, holographic masks, ignition credentials, 2 already inside the defense grid's upload chamber. Close quarters combat, brutally honest. No plasma, no staff, just hands, training, and clarity that comes when stakes are simple enough to hold in one fist. Vance took a hit to the ribs that would make the week unpleasant. He didn't stop. Neither did she. When Ignisian reinforcements breached the outer doors, it was over. 3 operatives down, chamber intact. Gem warm in Lyra's hand. She crossed to the upload terminal, pressed it against the interface. The grid accepted it in seconds. Above them, a planetary defense network came alive with usable intelligence for the first time in its operational history. They stood on the command deck afterward, while the Allied fleet assembled beyond the viewport in deliberate formation. Ship after ship dropped into position, beginning something with no certain ending. Lyra stood close enough to feel the heat she carried. Not fire exactly, just warmth, constant and specific. The Ignisian High Command offered him a commission while the medic taped his ribs. Strategic liaison. A formal seat at a table he hadn't known existed 2 days prior. He said yes before they finished speaking. He wasn't sure if it was for the war or for the way she looked at him when he did. She watched the fleet, calculating odds she wouldn't share. Then briefly, she looked at him instead of the stars. "You traded an entire arsenal for a stranger," she said. "Seemed like a fair deal," he replied. She looked back at the fleet. The corners of her mouth shifted in a way almost, but not quite, a smile. The ships kept forming for war. Neither moved. The warmth between them had nothing to do with hire. Please follow my channel for more videos. One click from you can change my life.